There's this really prominent theory in cognitive psychology and linguistics. It's known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis.
Right. Yeah?
And the core premise is, well, honestly, it's somewhat unsettling. The idea is that the language you speak doesn't just express your thoughts, it actually actively shapes the way you process reality.
Like it physically rewires how you think.
Exactly. It dictates how your brain organizes information, how you perceive time, and, how you construct logical arguments. So today on this deep dive, we are going to put that theory to the test.
Which is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have this stack of source material sitting right in front of us, and it's simply titled 200 Words with Sentences, C1, Learn German.
Right.
And at first glance, this is just a vocabulary list.
Yeah.
And not just any list. C1 is the European framework designation for, advanced academic exam-ready fluency.
Oh, yeah. It's the heavy-duty stuff.
But we are definitely not going to use this to cram for a test today.
No, far from it. Because if you look closely at the architecture of these specific C1 words, you start to see the hidden blueprint of the German mind.
Yeah.
It's a highly structured, intensely logical language. It basically forces the speaker to build arguments like an engineer builds a bridge.
Every piece has to bear weight.
Exactly. Every single piece.
And that brings us to the unique mission of today's deep dive. We are speaking directly to you, the listener. You might be a complete beginner in German, right? You might know just enough to stumble through ordering sparkling water in Berlin.
Or maybe not even that.
Right, and it doesn't matter because we are going to hack this advanced list specifically for you. We're going to take these really high-level, kind of intimidating building blocks and deconstruct how they work.
Yeah, we aren't just learning words today.
No, we're reverse engineering how the language forces you to become a more structured, logical, and honestly ruthless debater.
And the methodology from our source text provides the absolute perfect avenue for this because it relies on mastering what we call word families.
Word families.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of memorizing, 1,000 isolated random vocabulary words, the text groups the noun, the verb, and the adjective variations of a single concept together.
Which is so much smarter.
It really is. It demonstrates that if you understand the root of a concept, you already know 3 or 4 different ways to deploy it in a sentence.
Right, which drastically reduces the cognitive load on your brain when you're actually speaking in real time.
Exactly. You don't get stuck mid-thought searching for a specific verb if you already know the noun. You just adapt the root.
It's linguistic efficiency at its absolute finest. And the way we are going to internalize this today is through deliberate phonetic repetition.
Yeah, we're going to do the reps.
We are. Now, I know repeat after me exercises can sometimes feel a bit elementary, like a kindergarten language tape.
Sure.
But we are approaching this as adults. We are treating this deep dive like a phonetic laboratory, like a gym session for your mouth.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, so when we ask you to repeat a German sentence today, we are asking you to test the articulatory phonetics. We want you to feel the hard consonants in your mouth, to understand the rhythm of the verb placement.
And to build the oral musculature required to sound authoritative?
Exactly, because it's about muscle memory.
Yeah, when you speak a new language, you are literally asking your mouth, your tongue, your vocal cords to perform gymnastics they have never attempted before.
Right.
So by speaking these C1 phrases out loud, you bypass the analytical translation mechanism in your brain and start anchoring the language in your physical body.
You absorb the syntax organically.
Precisely.
So we are going to be your linguistic spotters today. We'll introduce the German phrases from the source. We will dissect their cultural meaning and the grammar in English, and then we will ask you to anchor them by saying them out loud wherever you are right now.
So let's start with the absolute foundation of human communication.
So do it.
Before you can build an argument, you have to establish a position. You have to state what you think.
Right. And our source material begins right there, exploring the word family for opinion. So we have the noun, die Meinung, and its corresponding verb, meinen.
Let's look at die Meinung first.
Yeah, it's functionally a cognate, right? It sounds like meaning. My meaning, my opinion.
Very easy to remember.
So let's look at the first sentence provided in the text. I'll read it once just to establish the rhythm. Meiner Meinung nach ist Bildung wichtiger als Reichtum.
And translated directly, that is, in my opinion, education is more important than wealth.
Okay, I want to break down the opening phrase of that sentence because it is a phenomenal piece of conversational machinery. Meiner Meinung nach.
It really is.
Right. In English, we say, in my opinion, the preposition comes first. But in German, we have this word nach sitting at the end of the phrase, Why is the geography of this phrase structured this way?
Well, this is a perfect example of how German spatial reasoning bleeds into its grammar. So nach usually means after or to,
Okay.
but when used as a postposition, meaning it comes after the noun, it translates closer to according to.
I see.
So structurally, you are saying my opinion,
Okay.
according to. You are establishing the source material, which is your opinion, and then declaring that the rest of the sentence operates according to those parameters.
According to my opinion. Wow, that carries so much more weight than a flimsy, I think.
Testament.
It totally does. Let's look at the rest of the sentence. Ist Bildung wichtiger als Reichtum? Is education more important than wealth? Now, if I look at the English translation, the word order is really jarring
Yeah, for English speakers, definitely.
because it's, in my opinion, IS education more important. The verb is jumped ahead of the subject, Bildung.
And this brings us to one of the most critical mechanical rules of the German language. It's known as V2 word order.
V2, verb second.
Exactly. In a standard declarative sentence, the conjugated verb must, without exception, sit in the second position.
Okay.
The first position can be the subject, or it can be a time, a place, or in this case, an introductory phrase.
So find a man.
Occupies position number 1.
Go.
Therefore, the verb immediately claims position number 2. It acts as a logical fulcrum for the rest of the thought.
It literally forces you to organize your thoughts before you speak.
Yes, you can't just ramble.
You establish the frame, drop the verb, and then deliver the payload. So let's test the physical rhythm of this sentence. I want you to try saying it out loud, listener, and feel how that verb anchors the phrase. Meiner Meinung nach ist Bildung wichtiger als Reichtum.
Notice how the hard ket sound in nach flows directly into the vowel of ist.
Yeah, it creates a really propulsive momentum.
It does. Let's do that one more time to lock in the articulation. Ready? Meiner Meinung nach ist Bildung wichtiger als Reichtum.
Great. Now let's pivot to the verb form in this family. Meinen, to mean, or to think. The source gives us this brilliant, concise conversational tool. Was meinst du dazu?
Which means, what do you think about it?
I love this one.
It is the ultimate conversational paddle. You serve your opinion over the net, and then you use was meinst du dazu to hit the ball back to your partner.
So it prevents you from monopolizing the dialogue.
Exactly. And the dazu at the end literally means thereto or to that. Like, what say you to that?
It's incredibly elegant. Let's anchor this phrase. So imagine you've just delivered a really controversial take at a dinner party, and the room goes completely silent.
Awkward.
Very awkward. And you turn to the person next to you and you deploy this. Listener, try it with us. Was meinst du dazu?
Excellent. Now let's return to the noun. But the text shifts it to the plural form to describe a broader, more complex situation.
Okay, lay it on us.
The Meinungen der Experten gehen weit auseinander.
Which is, the experts' opinions differ widely.
Right.
I really have to highlight the physical imagery in this phrasing. Gehen weit auseinander. Because gehen is the verb to go or to walk. Weit is far. And auseinander means apart from one another.
Yes.
So the German language doesn't just say the opinions differ. It paints a picture of these opinions physically standing up, turning their backs on each other, and walking far away in opposite directions.
It is incredibly cinematic.
It really is.
German relies heavily on these spatial directional adverbs. So auseinander instantly communicates a fracturing or a separation. It gives a tangible spatial reality to an abstract concept, like an opinion.
Let's test the mouthfeel of that final word, auseinander, because it kind of bounces.
It does, auseinander.
Yeah. Die Meinungen der Experten gehen weit auseinander. Try it with us, listener. Die Meinungen der Experten gehen weit auseinander.
Now, having an opinion is the baseline. But as adults navigating complex professional or intellectual landscapes, our opinions possess different shades of nuance.
Sure.
And the source material recognizes this. It provides two significant upgrades to the word Meinung. We have die Ansicht, which translates to view, and der Standpunkt, which means standpoint.
Okay, I want to push back on the utility of this for a moment.
Go for it.
If I'm an English speaker trying to survive a fast-paced business meeting in Frankfurt, does a native speaker actually care if I use the word Ansicht versus Standpunkt? Or is this just, academic C1 fluff that examiners care about but real people ignore?
It is absolutely not fluff. In a German boardroom, the distinction between those two words dictates the entire trajectory of the negotiation. It tells your colleagues exactly how flexible you are.
Oh, wow.
Let's dissect the etymology to understand why. Look at the Ansicht. The prefix an is on or at. Sicht comes from sehen, to see.
Yeah.
It is literally your on-site. It is the perspective from which you are currently viewing the problem.
Oh, so it's like putting on a specific pair of glasses. If I change my physical location, my Ansicht, my view might change. It implies a degree of intellectual flexibility.
Precisely. You are communicating. From where I'm sitting right now, looking at the data we have, this is my read of the situation.
That is so useful.
The sentence the source provides is, Meiner Ansicht nach sollte man dieses Problem ernst nehmen. In my view, one should take this problem seriously. Notice it uses the exact same grammatical architecture as meiner Meinung nach.
Yeah, it's totally plug and play. Let's anchor that sentence.
Why?
Feel the softer, more observational tone of Ansicht. Listener, with us.
Meiner Ansicht nach sollte man dieses Problem ernst nehmen. Now, contrast that flexibility with their Standpunkt. Stand is to stand. Punkt is point. This is your standing point.
Okay.
The physical metaphor here is completely different. You are not just looking at something. You have firmly planted your feet into the earth.
It's the hill you are willing to die on.
Exactly.
You are setting a boundary. Because if changing your Ansicht just requires turning your head, changing your Standpunkt requires uprooting yourself.
Yes. If you tell a German colleague, aus meinem Standpunkt ist das nicht akzeptabel. From my standpoint, this is not acceptable. You are signaling that the negotiation on this specific issue is closed. It is a rigid, established position.
That is a phenomenal distinction to understand. It is the difference between a preference and a hard limit. Let's practice delivering that firm boundary. Plant your feet, listener, and feel the authority in the consonants. Aus meinem Standpunkt ist das nicht akzeptabel.
Listen to the sharp, percussive sounds in Standpunkt.
Yeah.
And acceptable.
Yeah, the P and the K sounds.
It sounds definitive. Let's try it again. Aus meinem Standpunkt ist das nicht akzeptabel.
Okay, but having a firm standpoint is just noise unless you have the architecture to support it, right?
Sure.
Because if you simply plant your feet and refuse to move, you aren't participating in a dialogue, you are just being stubborn. So how does the language shift when you move from simply stating a view to actually building a case?
This is where we transition into the vocabulary of structured justification.
Laying the foundation.
Exactly. The source text moves us from opinions to arguments. We're looking at two foundational concepts here. Das Argument, which is the argument, and der Grund, which is the reason or foundation.
Let's start with this argument. The text gives us, sein Argument hat mich überzeugt. His argument convinced me.
Yes.
The verb überzeugen there is really interesting. Literally to over-witness or over-testify. To convince.
It's a very clean, impactful sentence. Let's anchor the articulation of it. Sein Argument hat mich überzeugt.
Let's do that once more, feeling the glide from hat to mish. Try it with us, listener. Sein Argument hat mich überzeugt.
Now, we look at the verb form, argumentieren. The text states, sie argumentiert sehr logisch und strukturiert. She argues very logically and in a structured way.
Okay, I have a massive point of clarification here.
Go ahead.
In English, if I tell my friends, my partner and I had an argument last night, the immediate assumption is a conflict.
Oh, right.
Right. It implies a screaming match in the kitchen over who forgot to run the dishwasher. It is emotional and it's volatile. When the German text uses argument or argumentieren, does it carry that same emotional baggage?
This is perhaps one of the most critical cultural misunderstandings for English speakers.
Really?
Yes. In German, this argument strictly and exclusively refers to the intellectual, logical point being made.
Oh, wow.
It is the piece of evidence you are putting forward on the table. It's entirely devoid of emotional volatility. If you are having a screaming match in the kitchen about the dishwasher, you are having a strike. You are engaging in striding.
So I can't say we had an argument to mean we fought.
No, definitely not. If you say you had an argument with your spouse, a German speaker would assume you both sat down with a whiteboard and presented structured, logical syllogisms regarding the division of household labor.
That is hilarious.
Right. It signals a highly civilized intellectual exchange. So when the text says, sie argumentiert sehr logisch und strukturiert, it is the highest form of praise in a professional setting.
Okay, that clarifies so much about the German stereotype of being, direct but not necessarily angry. They are presenting an argument, not initiating a streak.
Exactly.
So if I am building this logical case, I have to provide the raw materials for it. And that leads us to the word der Grund.
Der Grund translates to reason, but its literal meaning is the physical ground beneath your feet, the soil, or the foundation of a building.
The text gives us the plural form. Es gibt viele Gründe, sich für diesen Weg zu entscheiden. There are many reasons to choose this path.
Notice the plural form Gründe utilizes the umlaut over the U, changing the pronunciation entirely.
Yeah, how does that work physically in the mouth?
Well, it goes from a deep oo sound in Grund to a tighter forward in the mouth. Oo sound in Gründe.
Like a ew.
Yes, purse your lips. Let's practice that plural form. Gründe. Es gibt viele Gründe, sich für diesen Weg zu entscheiden.
Try that with us, listener. Really purse your lips for that umlaut. Make it feel strange. Es gibt viele Gründe, sich für diesen Weg zu entscheiden.
And what becomes fascinating is how the German language weaponizes this noun into a verb.
Weaponizes it.
Yeah, if der Grund is the physical foundation, the verb begründen translates to justify or to give reasons for. But literally, it means to pour the concrete. It means to place your idea onto solid ground.
I absolutely love that structural metaphor. You aren't just giving a flimsy excuse, you are laying down the foundation for why an action was taken.
Exactly. The source provides the sentence, Können Sie Ihre Entscheidung bitte begründen? Can you justify your decision, please?
Ooh, that sounds serious.
It is the ultimate demand for accountability. It is a manager asking an employee to show their work, to prove that their decision wasn't arbitrary, but rather built on something solid.
Let's test the articulatory phonetics of that inquiry. Put yourself in the mindset of a rigorous auditor listener. Können Sie Ihre Entscheidung bitte begründen?
Feel the weight of the word Entscheidung decision, followed by the demand to begründen. Let's try it again. Können Sie Ihre Entscheidung bitte begründen?
And sticking with this word family, we get the adverb grundsätzlich, fundamentally, or in principle.
Right.
The text says, Grundsätzlich bin ich mit dem Vorschlag einverstanden. In principle, I agree with the proposal. Which basically implies, the foundation is structurally sound, even if we need to negotiate the paint color on the walls later.
Yes. But here is the reality of human communication. No matter how solid your Grund is, the moment you state a firm standpoint, someone is going to try to knock it over.
Of course.
Building an argument is only half the battle. You also have to defend it.
Which means we need to understand the architectural stress tests of a conversation. How does the German language equip you to handle the inevitable pushback?
This brings us to section 3 of our text, the language of contrast and counterarguments.
Oh.
The source material introduces the primary noun here as this gegen argument, quite literally the counterargument. Gegen means against.
The text provides a remarkably diplomatic sentence for this. Das Gegenargument klingt zunächst überzeugend. The counterargument initially sounds convincing.
It's a great tactic, isn't it?
It is. You validate the opponent's strike before you dismantle it.
Exactly. The word zunächst initially does all the heavy lifting there. It implies that while it sounds good right now, it will soon fall apart upon closer inspection.
Let's practice that diplomatic phrasing, listener. Das Gegenargument klingt zunächst überzeugend.
Let's repeat that, focusing on the dins in zunächst, which sounds like a sharp tease.
Like Tias, zunächst.
Yes. Das Gegenargument klingt zunächst überzeugend.
But sometimes diplomacy just isn't enough. Sometimes you need to forcefully yet professionally tell someone they are completely incorrect.
True. And the noun for this is der Widerspruch, the contradiction, and the verb is widersprechen.
Let's dissect Widersprechen. Sprechen is to speak. Wider means against. It is modular language at its finest. To speak against.
Exactly.
The sentence the text provides is a total masterclass in professional disagreement. Ich muss dir hier widersprechen. I have to disagree with you here.
And the genius of this sentence is the inclusion of the modal verb must. You are not saying I disagree with you, which could sound like a personal attack.
Right.
You are saying I must speak against you here. It removes the ego entirely. It suggests that you are compelled by objective facts against your own desires to point out the error in their logic. It softens the blow while maintaining absolute firmness.
It's the linguistic equivalent of saying, don't shoot the messenger. The data makes me say this.
Yeah.
Let's anchor this phrase. It is incredibly useful for navigating workplace dynamics. Keep your tone objective and calm, listener. Ich muss dir hier widersprechen.
Try it again. Ich muss dir hier widersprechen.
Now, usually, the reason you are compelled to speak against someone is because you have identified a flaw in their plan. And the text gives us the word der Nachteil, the disadvantage.
Etymologically, this is paired with der Vorteil, the advantage.
Okay.
Teil means part or share. Vor is afore, nach is after. So a Vorteil is the part you get before everyone else, the advantage. A Nachteil is the part you are left with after the fact, the disadvantage.
Wait, really? I have never realized that literal breakdown, the after part.
Makes sense, right?
It totally does.
Huh.
The sentence is, der größte Nachteil ist der hohe Preis. The biggest disadvantage is the high price. Let's articulate that together. Der größte Nachteil ist der hohe Preis.
Now we arrive at a critical juncture in our analysis. Identifying flaws is easy. Connecting those flaws logically to your own argument requires a sophisticated set of tools.
The transition words.
Yes, the source material provides a cache of what we can call power connectors. Transition words like jedoch, alertings, dennoch, trotzdem, and obwohl.
I kind of think of these words as linguistic shock absorbers.
Oh, I like that. How so?
Well, in a debate, your opponent's counterargument is like a massive pothole in the road. If you hit it directly without a transition, your sentence breaks down and you lose your momentum.
Right.
But if you use a word like dennoch, nevertheless, the suspension absorbs the impact, you acknowledge the bump, and you keep driving forcefully in your original direction.
That is an incredibly apt mechanical metaphor.
Hmm.
These words allow you to maintain forward momentum despite encountering obstacles.
So let's examine how they function, starting with jedoch, which translates to however.
The sentence is, Das Argument ist interessant, jedoch nicht überzeugend. The argument is interesting, however not convincing.
It's a really swift, clean pivot. You offer the compliment, hit the shock absorber, and deliver the rejection.
Exactly.
Let's test the rhythm of that pivot, listener. Das Argument ist interessant, jedoch nicht überzeugend.
Very similar in function is alertings, which translates to, however, admittedly or mind you. The text is, Die Idee ist gut, allerdings auch sehr teuer. The idea is good, although also very expensive.
Alertings has such a great bounce to it. It sounds slightly more conversational than jedoch. Let's anchor it. Die Idee ist gut, allerdings auch sehr teuer.
Now we move to the heavy-duty shock absorbers, dennoch and trotzdem.
The big ones.
Yes. These mean nevertheless, or despite that. You deploy these when the first clause of the sentence presents a condition that should logically prevent the second clause from happening, but it doesn't.
Okay, give us the example.
The source provides, Es regnete, dennoch gingen wir spazieren. It was raining, nevertheless, we went for a walk.
The rain should have stopped the walk, but the dennoch allows the action to blast right through the obstacle.
Exactly.
Let's practice that resilience. Es regnete, dennoch gingen wir spazieren.
And trotzdem operates almost identically, utilizing the root trotz, which means defiance or spite.
Defiance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Es verkalt,
Ja.
aber wir gingen trotzdem schwimmen.
It was cold, but
Yeah.
we went swimming anyway. You are doing it in defiance of the cold.
Let's test the phonetics of trotzdem. It has a wonderful, stubborn sound to it, doesn't it?
Very stubborn. Listener, try it. Es war kalt, aber wir gingen trotzdem schwimmen.
Finally, we have obwohl, which translates to although. This connector is architecturally distinct.
How so?
Well, it doesn't sit in the middle of two independent thoughts. It introduces a dependent clause, meaning it usually drops the obstacle right at the very beginning of the sentence, forcing the verb to the end of that clause.
Ah.
Obwohl es regnete, machten wir den Ausflug. Although it was raining, we went on the trip.
If we look at the cognitive load of that sentence, it's pretty fascinating. You force the listener to hold the obstacle in their mind, obwohl es regnete, in suspense, waiting for the resolution of what action actually took place.
Yes, it builds tension.
Let's articulate that structure. Obwohl es regnete, machten wir den Ausflug.
I'll say this, if a learner masters nothing else from this section, internalizing how to use obwohl and trotzdem will instantly elevate their speech from basic to highly competent.
Because it shows you can juggle concepts.
Exactly. It demonstrates that you can hold opposing concepts in your mind simultaneously and navigate between them.
All right, so we've established a foundation, built an argument, and used our shock absorbers to survive the counter-arguments. But an argument isn't won just by parrying blows.
No, it's not.
Ultimately, you have to prove that your ideas have real-world implications. You must demonstrate the chain reaction. This brings us to the vocabulary of cause and effect, or, as the source text titles it, Ursache und Folge.
This section reveals how the German mind categorizes the start and the end of an event. Let's look at the noun for cause.
Die Ursache.
Ursache. The prefix is one of the oldest, most evocative prefixes in the Germanic language tree. It implies something ancient, primeval, or original. An Urwald is a primeval forest. The Urknall is the Big Bang.
Oh, wow. So die Ursache isn't just a casual reason. It is the absolute original genesis of the Sache, the thing or matter, the primeval matter.
Yes.
That carries so much philosophical weight.
It does. The sentence we have is, Die Ursache des Problems ist noch unbekannt. The cause of the problem is still unknown. We are searching for the primeval origin of the error.
Let's anchor that word Ursache. Feel the depth in that first syllable, listener. Die Ursache des Problems ist noch unbekannt.
The corresponding verb is verursachen, to cause.
Hmm.
Stress verursacht viele gesundheitliche Probleme. Stress causes many health problems. Notice how seamlessly the noun transforms into an action.
Try saying verursachen with us, listener. Stress verursacht viele gesundheitliche Probleme.
Now, if Ursache is the primeval beginning, die Folge is the result, the consequence. It comes from the verb folgen, to follow. It is that which logically follows the cause.
Makes perfect sense.
The text provides, die Folgen des Klimawandels sind weltweit spürbar. The consequences of climate change are noticeable worldwide.
Let's practice the plural form Folgen. Die Folgen des Klimawandels sind weltweit spürbar.
And from die Folge, we derive the adverb folglich, meaning consequently. Folglich brauchen wir neue Strategien. Consequently, we need new strategies.
Now, just as we had power connectors for contrast, the text highlights the specific transition words that link the Ursache to the Folge, the words that translate to therefore, that's why, or hence. The list gives us 3: deshalb, deswegen, and daher.
The examples are straightforward. It's regnet, deshalb bleiben wir zu Haus. It's raining, therefore we are staying home. And die Lage ist ernst, daher müssen wir schnell handeln. The situation is serious, hence we must act quickly.
Okay, I need to interrupt here with a highly pragmatic question.
Sure.
We have deshalb, deswegen, and daher. As a beginner, trying to minimize my cognitive load while speaking in real time, do I actually need to memorize the minute microscopic differences between these 3? Or can I just pick deshalb as my universal safety blanket and ignore the other 2?
Okay, from a purely productive standpoint, meaning when you were the one generating the speech, yes, you can absolutely pick deshalb as your safety blanket.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. They are functionally synonymous in standard conversation. If you only ever say deshalb, your grammar will be flawless and your logic intact.
There's always a however.
However, you cannot ignore the others.
Why? If I don't need to speak them, why learn them?
Because of receptive fluency.
You're raised...
Ear recognition. You might choose to only broadcast using deshalb, but your colleagues, the news anchors, and the executives you're listening to will utilize deswegen and daher interchangeably.
That makes sense.
If your brain hasn't anchored those specific phonetic sounds to the concept of therefore, you'll hit a cognitive processing lag when you hear them, and you might lose the thread of the entire chain reaction.
So we are training our ears to act as a wide net receiver. That is crucial. Let's do an exercise in ear recognition, listener. We are going to take one sentence and cycle through all 3 connectors so your brain can process them as identical logical operators.
Good idea.
First, the safety blanket. Deshalb. Es regnet, deshalb bleiben wir zu Hause.
Now let's run the exact same logic through deswegen. Es regnet, deswegen bleiben wir zu Hause.
And finally, with daher. Es regnet, daher bleiben wir zu Hause.
The destination remains identical, only the vehicle changed.
Phenomenal. So we've traced the chain reaction. We know how to link the primeval cause to its logical consequence. But just because something causes a consequence doesn't mean anyone should care about it.
Very true. Every day, millions of actions cause millions of consequences that are entirely irrelevant. Which brings us to the next section of our source text, evaluation and importance.
Exactly. Once an effect is established, the German mind demands that it be quantified and categorized. You must determine its relevance. We begin with the noun die Wichtigkeit, meaning the importance.
The source sentence is, Die Wichtigkeit der Familie wird oft unterschätzt. The importance of family is often underestimated.
Try to feel the dual key and K sounds in that word. Wichtigkeit.
Yeah, let's anchor that noun. Wichtigkeit. Die Wichtigkeit der Familie wird oft unterschätzt.
The adjective form, which learners will hear constantly, is wichtig. Bildung ist wichtig für die Zukunft. Education is important for the future.
Let's run a quick articulatory test on that core sentence. Bildung ist wichtig für die Zukunft.
Now, if the context requires a more academic register, the text provides the relevance and the adjective relevant. Diese Information ist für unsere Entscheidung sehr relevant. This information is very relevant for our decision. That's a very welcoming, easy cognate for English speakers. Let's say it anyway, to feel the German intonation. Diese Information ist für unsere Entscheidung sehr relevant.
But the true linguistic heavy lifting in this section comes from the verbs of evaluation. The source material draws a very deliberate, crucial distinction between 2 specific verbs, bewerten to evaluate and bepeilen to judge.
Let's examine the sentences the text provides for context. For bewerten, we have Es ist schwer, die Lage objektiv zu bewerten. It is hard to evaluate the situation objectively.
And for beurteilen, we have Man sollte niemanden nach dem Äußeren beurteilen. One should not judge anyone by appearances.
I want to break down the etymology of these verbs because I suspect it holds the key to the difference. Bewerten contains the root noun wert, which translates directly to value or worth.
Correct. When you bewerten something, you are acting as an appraiser.
An appraiser, like for a house.
Exactly. You are analyzing data to assign it a numerical value, a grade, or a financial assessment. A teacher bewerted a student's math exam. A financial analyst bewerted a company's stock portfolio. It is an objective, measurable assessment of worth.
Okay, now let's look at beurteilen. The root noun there is das Urteil.
Urteil translates to verdict or judgment. Again, we see that ancient prefix combined with teil, which means part.
Oh, wow.
It is the final, ultimate division of right and wrong. When you beurteilen something, you are acting as a judge banging a gavel in a courtroom. You are forming a final moral, ethical, or qualitative conclusion.
That distinction is monumental for navigating a corporate environment. If my team is reviewing the quarterly sales figures, we want to bewerten them. We want to find their objective value.
Right.
But if human resources is reviewing a complaint about a toxic manager, they need to beurteilen the behavior. They must reach a moral verdict.
If you mix those up, if you tell HR you want to bewerten a toxic employee, you're implying you want to figure out their financial market value.
Which sounds incredibly callous. The precision of this language is just stunning. Let's anchor bewerten first. Adopt the mindset of the cold, calculating financial appraiser, listener. Es ist schwer, die Lage objektiv zu bewerten.
Now switch your mindset. You are a judge, emphasizing fairness and moral clarity. Let's anchor beurteilen. Man sollte niemanden nach dem Äußeren beurteilen.
Wow. We have assembled an incredibly sophisticated toolkit so far. We can form firm standpoints, build logical foundations, maneuver around counter-arguments with shock absorbers, trace causality, and appraise the value of the outcome.
We have built the engine.
Yeah, we have built the engine. Now it is time to put the car on the road. The source text moves us out of abstract logic and into the real world, how to apply this vocabulary to society, problems, and solutions.
This is where the C1 vocabulary intersects with daily news, political discourse, and workplace management. The text groups these highly applicable concepts into a problem phase and a solution phase.
The most ubiquitous word in the problem phase is, unsurprisingly, das Problem. The text pairs it with a very proactive sentence. Wir haben ein ernstes Problem zu lösen. We have a serious problem to solve.
The pairing of the noun, problem, with the verb lösen, to solve, is a linguistic reflex in German. They are inextricably linked.
Let's enter that reflex. Wir haben ein ernstes Problem zu lösen.
But in the modern corporate and political lexicon, labeling something a simple problem is often deemed insufficient or overly negative.
Right.
So the source text introduces a much heavier word. Die Herausforderung, meaning the challenge.
The sentence provided is, der Klimawandel ist die größte Herausforderung unserer Zeit. Climate change is the greatest challenge of our time.
Yes.
Herausforderung is a massive multisyllabic beast of a word. Let's dissect its anatomy. The core verb is fordern, which means to demand or require.
And the prefix heraus means out of or outwards.
Okay, so when you combine them, a Herausforderung is not just a passive obstacle blocking your path. It is an active entity that demands something out of you. It requires you to summon internal resources and project them outward to meet the threat.
It is intrinsically dynamic.
That reframes the entire concept of a challenge. It's not just a big problem, it's a test of your capacity.
The text shows this dynamic nature in the verb form, too. Dieses Projekt fordert mich richtig heraus. This project really challenges me. It pulls the best effort out of me.
Let's test the articulatory phonetics of that verb phrase. Feel how the word pulls the energy outward, listener. Dieses Projekt fordert mich richtig heraus.
Now, I noticed another word in the source list for this section. Die Schwierigkeit, meaning the difficulty. The sentence is, Wir haben einige Schwierigkeiten überwunden. We have overcome some difficulties.
Right, and derived from the adjective schwer, meaning heavy or difficult. Here is my question. In American corporate culture, we are heavily trained in PR speak. We are told never to use negative words. We never say we have a problem or we are facing a difficulty. We exclusively say, we have an exciting new challenge.
About the sugarcoating.
Exactly, we sugarcoat everything. Does the German language or German business culture engage in this same linguistic sugarcoating? What is the emotional difference between a Schwierigkeit and a Herausforderung?
Well, German business culture is famously, sometimes brutally, direct.
I've heard that.
Yeah, they have far less tolerance for corporate sugarcoating. If the supply chain has collapsed and the factory is halted, a German manager will likely call it a problem. Calling it an exciting challenge would seem delusional and inefficient.
They prefer the diagnostic accuracy over the emotional padding.
Exactly. However, the linguistic distinction is real. A Schwierigkeit implies friction. It implies that a process has become schwer-heavy, cumbersome, bogged down. It is a hurdle that slows you down. A Herausforderung, because of that demanding out etymology, implies an obstacle of scale that requires innovation or extreme effort to overcome.
So, if the office printer is jammed again, that is a Schwierigkeit. It's an annoying friction point. But if the company needs to pivot its entire business model to survive a recession, that is a Herausforderung.
Precisely. Let's anchor the pronunciation of Schwierigkeit so the listener is prepared for those friction points. Wir haben einige Schwierigkeiten überwunden.
Let's do that one more time, listener. Wir haben einige Schwierigkeiten überwunden.
Once the problem, difficulty, or challenge has been diagnosed, the German mind rapidly seeks equilibrium. The conversation must move to the solution phase.
Because you can't just complain forever.
Right. The source material emphasizes this as the ultimate destination of any professional dialogue.
The primary noun is die Lösung, the solution, stemming directly from the verb we saw earlier, lösen. The text offers a highly optimistic absolute. Für jedes Problem gibt es eine Lösung. There is a solution for every problem.
Let's practice that core philosophy. Für jedes Problem gibt es eine Lösung.
And the action-oriented counterpart. Wir müssen dieses Problem gemeinsam lösen. We must solve this problem together. Let's anchor that, listener. Wir müssen dieses Problem gemeinsam lösen.
Now, while losing is the abstract concept of a solution, how does that solution manifest in the real world, especially in government or corporate governance?
Good question.
The text gives us the ultimate bureaucratic noun, die Maßnahme, meaning the measure or the action taken.
If you turn on the German news program Tagesschau for even 5 minutes, you will be battered with this word, Maßnahmen.
It is inescapable. Das Maß refers to a measurement or a proportion. Nehmen is to take. So a Maßnahme is a measured action taken to address a specific issue.
Measured action?
The text provides, Die Regierung hat strenge Maßnahmen beschlossen. The government has decided on strict measures.
Let's practice articulating that word. It is the absolute currency of German administration. Die Regierung hat strenge Maßnahmen beschlossen.
And finally, because humans are involved, a perfect solution is rarely adopted entirely. We must rely on der Kompromiss.
A true cognate.
Yes, ich schlage einen Kompromiss vor. I propose a compromise.
The verb vorschlagen, to propose or suggest, literally translates to strike before. You are striking an idea out in front of the group for consideration. Let's anchor that highly useful diplomatic phrase. Ich schlage einen Kompromiss vor.
Well, we have reached the final stage of our linguistic journey. We've laid the foundations, built the architecture, navigated the obstacles, and instituted the measures.
But a structured German argument cannot just slowly fade out into silence, can it?
No, it must be formally closed. This brings us to Section 7 of the source material. The final word. Summary, conclusion, and high-frequency verbs.
Sticking the landing in a complex conversation is an art form. If you just stop talking, the listener is left hanging, waiting for the verb that usually sits at the end of the sentence. You have to signal that the logical construction is complete.
The text begins with Die Zusammenfassung, the summary.
Zusammenfassung.
Zusammen means together. Fassen means to grasp, to grab, or to hold. So a Zusammenfassung is the act of grabbing all the disparate threads of your argument and holding them together in one tight bundle.
That is so visual. The text gives us, die Zusammenfassung finden Sie am Ende des Texts. You will find the summary at the end of the text.
But the more dynamic conversational tool is the adverbial phrasing. Zusammenfassend lässt sich sagen, in summary, one can say.
Okay.
The source sentence is, Zusammenfassend lässt sich sagen, dass es viele Vorteile gibt. In summary, one can say that there are many advantages.
This phrase is a structural marvel. It's like tying a taut, perfectly symmetrical ribbon around the Zusammenfassung bundle and handing it to your opponent. It signals absolute mastery of your own argument.
It really does.
Let's test the articulatory phonetics of this phrase, listener. Enjoy the rhythm of it. Zusammenfassend lässt sich sagen, dass es viele Vorteile gibt.
Let's do that one more time. Allow it to sound definitive. Zusammenfassend lässt sich sagen, dass es viele Vorteile gibt.
If you want to offer a more personal, concluding thought rather than an objective summary, the text suggests das Fazit, the conclusion or takeaway. Mein persönliches Fazit ist positiv. My personal conclusion is positive.
Let's anchor that short, punchy takeaway. Mein persönliches Fazit ist positiv.
And the most direct way to signal the end of the dialogue is der Schluss, the end. Zum Schluss möchte ich allen danken. In closing, I would like to thank everyone.
A graceful traditional sign-off. Let's articulate it. Zum Schluss möchte ich allen danken.
Now, to truly round out this C1 vocabulary list, the source material leaves us with 3 highly functional verbs. These are macro verbs used to describe trends, movements, and content. The verbs are zunehmen, to increase, abnehmen, to decrease, and handeln von, to be about.
Let's look at the mechanics of the first two. Sinemam is the base verb, meaning to take. We attach prefixes to dictate the direction of the taking.
Right.
So it implies adding, closing, or moving towards. So zunehmen is to increase. Ab implies moving away from or off of. So abnehmen is to decrease.
The text gives us a sentence for the increase. Die Anzahl der Studierenden nimmt jedes Jahr zu. The number of students increases every year. Notice how the prefix to detaches and is thrown to the very end of the sentence.
That is the infamous separable verb structure in German.
Ah, yes.
The core verb nimmt takes the second position, while the directional prefix to waits at the absolute end to finalize the meaning.
Let's anchor that rhythm. Die Anzahl der Studierenden nimmt jedes Jahr zu.
And for the decrease, the source actually provides the noun form. Die Abnahme der Schülerzahlen ist alarmierend. The decrease in student numbers is alarming.
But let's adapt the previous sentence with the verb to feel the opposite direction. Die Anzahl nimmt ab. The number decreases.
Try that short phrase. Feel the sharp B in ab cutting off the growth. Die Anzahl nimmt ab.
Finally, we have a verb phrase that is essential for describing the content of a meeting, a book, or a movie. Handeln von Rachel. Der Roman handelt von einer ungewöhnlichen Freundschaft. The novel is about an unusual friendship.
English speakers constantly try to translate. It's about, literally, saying ist über. A German speaker will look at you with mild confusion. A book doesn't exist over a topic.
Right.
It deals with, trades in, or acts concerning the topic.
It makes the book an active participant in the topic rather than a passive observer. Let's practice that final sentence. Der Roman handelt von einer ungewöhnlichen Freundschaft.
Anchor it one last time, listener. Der Roman handelt von einer ungewöhnlichen Freundschaft.
And with that final phonetic anchor, we have actually reached the end of the source material. We have successfully reverse-engineered the C1 blueprint. You have built the musculature required to state an opinion, lay a foundation, absorb a counterargument, trace causality, assess value, and deliver a definitive conclusion.
By analyzing these word families, seeing how Grund becomes Begrunden, how Folge becomes Folge, or how Urteil becomes Berteilen, you have bypassed rote memorization. You now understand the mechanical logic of the language.
As we wrap up, I want to return to the thought we opened with. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, the idea that the language you speak rewires your brain.
After spending the last hour dissecting the architecture of German, it is difficult to deny that theory, isn't it?
It really is.
When a language explicitly links the word for cause or Sach to the primeval origin of matter, when it forces you to conceptualize justifying an action as physically pouring a foundation begründen.
Yeah.
When it separates the objective appraisal of value bewerten from the moral judgment of an action beurteilen, that language is absolutely forcing you to be a more rigorous thinker.
It leaves no room for intellectual laziness. It really doesn't. Next time you find yourself constructing an argument in English, try to pause and trace the concepts back to these German blueprints. Look for the Grund. Check your Standpunkt. Apply your linguistic shock absorbers. You might find that your thoughts become sharper, clearer, and infinitely more persuasive. Keep testing those mechanics, listener, and we will see you on the next deep dive.